Pencil. You know what? Mechanical pencil for classy students, alright? Mechanical pencil, I'm not sure where I got it, but I have it. I know I didn't buy it, but whatever. Alright. Let me just go ahead and call. Hello, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Alright. First off, what should I call you before anything?
You can call me whatever you want. Caleb, TeethBox, doesn't matter. I don't care.
I think Caleb would be easier, but TeethBox would be more fun, so I'll probably switch in between them.
Okay.
Alright. So an hour of coaching, usually, well, first off, just go ahead and, wait, let me see if everyone can hear you as well, because I'm going to be crowdsourcing, like, practice partners so I can watch you play to the stream,
Sure.
which makes it a little bit easier.
Right.
The student is very quiet. Alright, let me turn you up here. And this button, there we go. Alright, now try talking again real quick.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Alright, there we go, that should do it.
Cool.
But, okay, what race and league are you in? I don't know
So,
if you actually told me this at some point, but...
It was like, there was like the weird thing with nerd upgrades and all that other stuff. I'm a silver Terran. I used to be in gold, but I had like, basically like ladder anxiety, and then I kind of moved away from that, but now I'm having harder time with the early game for Terran, so silver Terran.
Alright, silver Terran. So, at that level, I mean, you say you got ladder anxiety a little bit. Before anything, what is it like, whenever you get into a game, or whenever you press that button, there's a couple different types of people with ladder anxiety. There's the people who will like press the button, and then before they find a game will cancel, and then there's the people who won't even open up StarCraft, because they don't want to play.
I used to be a guy that would just do like 2v2s or like 1v1 the computer a lot, but I have a problem with, basically I get really nervous that I'm going to get over angry at myself, and I don't like feeling like that, so I don't play 1v1s versus people too much, because it usually results in me being upset with myself.
Well,
I know that sounds really bizarre.
I mean, I do the same type of thing. I always get upset like, oh, I'm not playing well. I hate it. It's terrible.
I guess if I felt less lost, I wouldn't be so upset.
So I think what I'm gonna give you is just a series of very solid builds to start out.
Okay.
Probably ideally builds that you can use in every matchup, so that way you can have something to work off of. It's not going to be like a pro build, but I'm just going to give you something that you won't die early in any matchup, and then you'll just have the infrastructure you need in order to move out. But before that, I just want to run through your matchups and what you're doing right now. I'm not going to go too far into it, because obviously silver gold, the meta game doesn't matter that much. Just making a bunch of stuff does. But I just want to kind of hear your ideas on each matchup. So just starting TVT, let's start with Amir.
So TVT, my biggest problem with all three of them is actually scouting. So for TVT, what I usually do is I open up 111 into Cloak Banshee or a Widowmine drop, just to kind of keep them busy while I make Marine tank, and then I show up at their door, I bring a CC to the low ground, and then I kind of try to keep them contained or keep them busy until I can get a safe expansion up into like 5 racks, factory starport kind of thing.
Alright. Oh, so you like playing mech then?
Or no, just 5 racks and then.
Oh, I thought I heard 5 factory there, and then I just realized I heard that completely wrong. Okay. But how do you usually lose in TVT then? Do you get just like everything kind of falls apart and you just don't have enough stuff, or?
Yeah, in the early game for TVT, they exploit my lack of unit control, and then they basically just roll over me, and then I don't have anything to defend, and then they pull me apart. Very rarely do I lose to like outright aggression.
That's one of those strategies. I'm kind of getting the idea, like that's one of those strategies that's very like control oriented. One thing falls apart, like you lose a Banshee or something, and then everything just starts going the other way, which is why I usually don't like to do like very technical builds like that. I'm gonna give you a build where you can just like sit in your base and defend things, and then I'll teach you the timings where you actually know what you need to defend. But that's the plan. That's what I like to do. I mean, what's gonna happen? I'm just gonna tell you right now. When you use these builds, you'll probably die several times. You'll be like, you just didn't scout something. But they're builds where if you scan at a certain time and you look for a certain thing, then you'll be able to say, okay, I need to have siege tanks out by this time in order to defend it. And that's what we're looking for here. Just the builds that you get later into the game, and ideally, the more decisions you make, the more better ones you'll make than your opponent. And that's how I like to play a lot, because that's like the definition of outplaying. If you now this is going to sound really dumb, but if you make more better decisions than your opponent, more better, then you should win the game. So
scouting is definitely something I have a serious problem with. I don't know what. Well, I know what I'm kind of looking for in terms of like some of the pro games that I see, but that never really actually happens in the lower leagues. So I don't really know what exactly I'm looking for.
It's very true when you hear like if you make more stuff than your opponent, you usually win, and that's pretty true. It might not seem like it at that league, but just make more stuff. But with that, moving on to TVP. TVP is a matchup I know a lot of people struggle with. It's like, well, Protoss can just A-move, and to an extent, at that level, it's kind of true. But what do you do, and how do you feel about it?
TVP, it's actually, I think, my highest win rate. I don't have too much of a problem with TVP. I just do, I kind of get like a 3 racks kind of bomber-style aggression, just to kind of get units on the field, and then I attack them at 7 minutes with whatever I have, to try and force an overcharge, or to like, if I see their mothership core is at my base trying to, piss me off,
I
roll in and I know there's no overcharge, or he has to force a recall or some other nonsense.
That's
and
smart.
I just, I'm sorry, I just try to poke in and piss him off and do stuff. And if I can't kill him outright, I back off, wait till I get medevacs at like 9-10, and then I go in and I kill him.
All right.
And late game, if he takes me to late game, I die, but I try to get ghosts out and use them intelligently, but it's hard to stop the death ball with very little micro that I have.
The idea I'm getting here, just from your builds, like you seem to understand what you need to be doing if you see certain things.
Right.
It's just sometimes you get caught off guard. I think it's just more like you don't. A lot of the times, at least, do you just kind of make production facilities when you see you have a lot of money?
I try to keep it low, but I went for a long time having a lot of problems realizing what I should be having on how many bases, but I've kind of ended up that if I have mech, I have a certain amount of factories and starports, but if I do bio, which is what I'm most experienced with, I should have, three racks, 1 factory, 1 starport, into 5 racks, 1 factory, 1 starport for a second base, and then 8 racks, 1 factory, maybe 2 starports if it's Protoss, 2 factories if it's Zerg, and 2 to 3 factories if it's Terran, depending on if they're doing siege tanks or whatever. So, I had it at one point, but I know that I know that if I can't afford it, I shouldn't build it. Like I have naked racks until I can afford it, and stuff like that.
All right. Well, I'm writing down a few things here, but I'm not going to tell you what they are because I want you to play a game first. I want to see how right I am on some of them, because if I am, then I know exactly what to do, and then we'll go into a game in just a little bit. Just give me a quick rundown on your TVZ, because I don't want to like go over a bunch of stuff now before I even see you play.
Okay. TVZ is my most. It's either a landslide win or it's a landslide lose. I lose a lot to all-ins almost every game, whether it's like a Baneling bust or like a Speedling all-in, or if it's a Roach Bane Speedling timing or something like that. If I can get past that, where I get to 2, maybe 3 bases, I can usually go until either I steamroll them or I lose my entire army to a poorly executed, push with Widowmine and Marine push.
All right.
And that usually kills me, and it's kind of weird because I don't really feel comfortable moving out against Zerg a whole lot, because I always feel like they can see everything and they're like watching me at all times, and it really screws with my head.
Good Zergs will make you feel like that. Well, I'm not gonna go too in depth in the match, but I just want to see you play first, so that way I can have a lot more pointed examples. Hopefully you lose. If there's anyone silver or gold in the chat that would like to play, I'm not gonna be specific about matchup. I just want to get you in a game real quick, and it's just gonna be. I want you to do your normal build and try to like get into a macro game, but once the game gets to like a certain point where we're a little bit past the opener, like mid-game, I'll probably end it right there. I'll just be like GG, or like thank you GG, and then even if you're winning, especially if you're winning, that's when I'll end it, because it's a little bit more helpful. Looks like Black Snake. I'm actually, no offense to you Black Snake, but I want Pylo Critter because they're gold and I want him to lose here. So I want you to go up against someone who will probably make you feel like you're doing everything wrong. because it's a lot easier
Okay.
to demonstrate things for you then.
Sure.
But just do whatever your normal build is in the matchup. Just like do whatever you do normally based on what you scout. I'm gonna tell them to do a certain strategy. You won't know what it is until
Okay.
after, and then we'll jump into the replay and I'll point out specific examples of things, so you can see like, oh, this is a very obvious thing I could do. But don't feel like stressed out or whatever that you're doing it wrong or anything like that. Just do your normal build.
Okay.
And then we'll go over it afterwards and we'll fix it. Not that there was anything wrong, but there will be after the game. So.
Oh yeah. No, I know. There's I don't have a whole lot of confidence going into 1v1 sometimes, and I think that's a huge part of why I don't do so well, or maybe why I feel so bad afterwards. But it's all about moving forward, I guess.
Yeah. That's the entire point here, of course. If we have time at the end, we'll get another person in to play you with your new and improved build. But usually how this goes, of course, is I talk about you, the matchups a little bit, then watch you play a game, and we'll talk about it, and then I'll probably give you a build after that for that to execute. So.
Okay.
Looks like I've got him here. I'm going to put you on a good map for Terran, Derelict Watcher. This is TVP, I believe, by the way, I think. So
Okay.
It's good. That's a tough map for Protest to take the third. So, yeah, whatever you want to do on this map. But let's get you set up. And what I'm going to do in the game, you can mute yourself and I'll mute myself as well. If you go back in the VODs after this, that's like streaming during coaching as well. Because you can go back in the VODs and whatever commentary I'm doing, I'll be just like pointing things out live. But I don't want to distract you during the game and be like, hey, check your supply depots. Like, because that's just like the most annoying thing anyone can ever do. So, but I don't want you to feel like you're getting gypped out of time here, so I'm going to be doing commentary on the stream at the same time. So,
No worries.
you can go back afterwards, but just remember, I'll just be like, thank you, GG. Just do whatever you want. Don't feel any stressed out here.
Okay.
I hope you lose.
Yeah, me too.
Well, no, you should be trying to win here. Just do your best to win. If you win, you should
Well, I'm
feel
trying to
accomplished.
win, but I hope I lose. That way you can tell me what I'm doing wrong.
But yeah, good luck, sir.
Alright, thanks. Man.
Whenever he's ready, I'll mute myself and we'll get into the game. I'll be
Alright.
probably watching mostly your vision, but flipping back and forth, just so you know.
Okay.
Alright, good luck, have fun, sir. Alright, I muted myself. He cannot hear me. I'm going to be watching his vision and the production tab during the game. So if like a Dark Shrine or something is coming up, I want to see if he's looking for it. But yeah, I want him to lose right now, because it's a lot easier to point out mistakes for someone that lost, even though in any game of StarCraft, even like when Maru or Bomber, the WCS champions, are playing, I want them. They make mistakes, so definitely a Silver League Terran, formerly Gold, is making some mistakes even if he wins the game. But we'll see here. I'm gonna be watching his vision. Some things I have written down based on what he was telling me earlier on. He seems to be pretty competent when it comes to whenever he scouts anything. Like he knows how to react, or what he's looking for, little tells, like a mothership core in the base or something like that. But also some basic, seems to be a little bit lacking in like basic builds. He's trying to be a little bit too technical, especially in TVT, going for like Cloak, Banshee, Widowmine drop. It's very micro intensive, and I can see minerals jumping up into the multiple thousands here. With builds like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a 2 racks expand, which is a barracks with a reactor and then a barracks with a tech lab into an expand, and then just getting siege tanks behind that with an engineering bay. It's just a very safe build. You'll have enough units to deal with any early attack off of 1 base or early 2 base, and then you'll be able to transition to factory off of that with a lot more production facilities. So that's the build I'm going to give him, most likely, after he plays this game and we go over the replay. But for right now, I just want to see what he prioritizes, whether he spends too much time microing his units, for example. Like, maybe he does a Reaper harass and he spends 30 seconds straight looking at the Reaper trying to kill like 2 probes, and in the meantime he hasn't made 2 SCVs, which is something you kind of see at this level. Really easy things to fix, like thinking about, don't spend more than, I might talk about the 5-second rule. It depends. We'll see. Maybe he's good about that. But the 5-second rule, don't spend... You see, right now, he spent more than 5... He has 250 minerals because he spent 5 seconds, more than 5 seconds, trying to deal with that probe. That probe essentially cut 2 of his SCVs. He didn't even have to kill the SCVs for the SCVs to be slow, because he spent so much time harassing that probe. So, 5-second rule. Never spend more than 5 seconds in StarCraft doing any one thing. Whether it's be moving your units, microing your army, making production facilities, making supply depots, stuff like that. And that is, I'm just going to write that down. Well, I write down a bunch of stuff, but some stuff I want to glaze over, some stuff I want to go over. My handwriting is really bad, but we got this to work on right now. But yeah. At this point, seeing no second gas, well, no second gas, Zealot, oh, second gas, and then some chrono. I'm just going to ask him about what he scouted here. No orbital command, of course. Ugh. Orbital. That's in caps. That's in caps. There we go. Orbital after 2 barracks. This is a little bit slow. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's like 15 seconds on a mule, but still, you want to have your orbital first. Anything. I can turn my music up while we're not in Skype, though. He's checking for the expand at the same time. He did scout, and I think he kind of realized, like, it could be an early expand build, and he scouted that now. Has the 3 racks. Does he want to expand, or does he want to pressure it? He saw 2 gas. If he doesn't scout another gateway or another tech facility, I wouldn't be surprised. Go for the stim, put some pressure on. Maybe kill the Nexus, but be expanding in the meantime, so we'll see here. But definitely going to be teaching him the reactor barracks tech lab build. 2 racks expand, as opposed to 3 racks. Just 3 racks expand, you just won't have enough money. Notice how he can't build any buildings right now? He can't build any buildings, right? What am I trying to say? Can't build any Marines out of all his barracks right now. Just having 3 barracks is a waste before your expansion, essentially. And getting that stim upgrade. He has 200 gas. There it is. Okay. Pretty much I'm just going to adapt his build into a much more efficient build. Because it's something he's already comfortable with. A multi-barracks expand. With the scouting SCV, seeing what he needs to see. But it's just not efficient. He has too much gas. He invested too many minerals early on, not getting the orbitals at the right time, not getting the SCVs at the right time, but... Scanning, seeing a robo, seeing full chrono boost. The chrono boost might not be a tell at this league. It's something to keep in mind, though. Like, he could chrono boost that robo and get a bunch of immortals out. I don't know. At this point, I wouldn't be that scared, because I already saw an expand, and I only see 2 production facilities. So what does that mean? Production facilities. Yeah, it looks like he's getting combat shields early on. If you're going to do early pressure, combat shields is better because it hits a little bit earlier. I like how every time he finishes a supply depot, he's making another supply depot with that SCV. Even though it might not be quite efficient, he's on top of his supply depot. So that's something I want to point out. Just like you gotta compliment them at the same time. Otherwise, self-esteem through the foundation there. I don't know. It drops. But yeah, seeing that quick robo and double gas. Oh, this is a good timing here, too. Just moving in with the combat shields, microing back. Now, pay attention. 5-second roll. 5-second roll. We're already at like 8 seconds of micro right here. Notice his production tab. He's not making any Marines. He's not making Marauders behind that. Sure, he's going to do a lot of damage, but imagine if he was making more supply behind this. Let's look in the worker count. Yeah, he's still behind in workers. He's not... Oh. He just flipped back. He made some Marines. That's good. But he has 500 gas. He could be getting upgrades. He could be getting an engineering bay. Well, double engineering bay. A factory is very important. He's just lucky the Protoss did not make warp gate to warp in units yet. But now he's going back home. But there's the double engineering bay. But imagine if this had been a little bit earlier. He could easily be so far ahead at the moment. If he kills that Nexus, I'm going to be pretty pissed off, though. Because he has no right to kill that Nexus. Oh my god. He's gonna kill the Nexus, I think. Hey. So much micro. Look at the minerals on both players. 5-second rule in action here. He has no right to do this much damage, which is why 700 minerals in the bank, I'm gonna drive that home. I'm gonna point it out like 7 times when we get back into the replay analysis part. Be like, look at your minerals. Minerals. Prioritization. Like, what could you be making behind this instead of, like, taking down 1.5 of the shield's health? Like, sure, it was a good attack, but it could be a lot stronger with just a reactor and a tech lab barracks instead of getting the extra barracks early. So now he's actually behind in supply because of those, the Colossi coming out. Also, he should be thinking at this point in the game, okay, he had no units. Why did he have no units? Obviously, the only options are he's teching very quickly. But we're assuming he's a competent opponent. He's teching very quickly. What is he teching to? He had a Robo, he could have Colossi coming out. You gotta get that factory out a little bit earlier at that point. If you see no units, the second you see no units at the expansion, factory, behind it, factory, because you're not going to be able to do any more damage with that attack. And now he sees the Colossi coming out, second starport with more tech labs. We see 2 reactors. Wait, did he get tech lab? He got 1 tech lab. Okay, more marauders there. I don't see it. There's no downside to getting 2 starports if you're behind against the Colossus. Just 2 starports. You have to start out with medevacs, or your army will never live up against the Colossus. He is getting his upgrades, though. Despite the fact they're a little bit late, keeping up on the upgrades is really nice. His opponent doesn't have a forge. If he has 2-2, and his opponent has 0-0, he's going to be able to rip right through this, but... Getting 1... He should be prioritizing... Nope, don't make any more supply depots. You've made enough supply depots. I mean, you've done good on the supply depots, but... Getting +1 vehicle armor is a little bit questionable at this point for his 1-2 medevacs coming out, but the idea is there. I'd like to see 2-2 right off the bat, though. Barracks count, definitely not high enough, of course. Is his... Or his production... Does he have his starport in his production facilities? He does. Okay. Let me go back to his camera. Let him show me what he's doing. Getting +2 armor. Yeah, he's going for 2-2 right off the bat against only +1 of his opponent. And he scans, click on a unit. Click on a unit, see his upgrades. Okay, clicking on units. You always gotta click on a unit to see upgrades. I don't like this. Why don't I like going for drops when he's going for Colossus? He hasn't scanned whether there's a 3rd base. If there is a 3rd base, you can do drops. He's going to be split between 3 bases. If he's on 2 bases, the most likely thing that's going to happen is he's going to kill a few probes, and then he's going to lose his drop. And this leaves him vulnerable to early attacks. You always want to have a Marine at the 3rd, and a Marine waiting to see if he moves out. And that will prevent like 90% of the times where 3 Colossi and an army show up at your front door while you're not paying any attention. Which I know has happened to a lot of you, alright? They just show up, it's like, where the fuck did these guys come from? There's even a proxy pylon out on the map, so... He scans, where's that army? Where's the army? Is it out on the map? Panic! Panic! And speaking of an army showing up at the front door because you don't have a goddamn scouting pylon, this is why we don't double drop without scouting if he has a 3rd base, guys. This is exactly the situation why we don't do that. Oh, this is gonna get interesting. He can't fit any more units in there. There we go. Alright. I have plenty of to talk about that one, which is good.
Yes. This is good.
Alright, there are a lot of little things and there are a lot of big things too. I'll try to spend about even time. The big things I'll actually kind of glaze over because I'll go over them. Because your build, your opener, I'm going to give you something a little bit different. But it's going to be essentially the same thing. A multi-barracks expand into tech. But there's a few things I'm gonna really hammer home a couple points just so you'll be really annoyed with me by the end. But you'll be so annoyed that you'll remember them when you're in games. And that's kind of the idea here.
Alright, I'm busting out the notepad.
I already have mine with the more important the point, the bigger I write it. That should tell you how good my handwriting is.
Okay.
Alright, to start, okay, we're gonna go back. We got something already.
Myself. Alright.
We should be looking at your vision here, is what we're gonna be looking for. We're looking at your vision. This is your vision. As the probe comes in. I want you to watch your minerals and your SCV production as the probe comes in. Just watch. Just watch. Oh, that probe. What an annoying bitch, right? Gotta deal with that. Alright, you got an SCV on the way. You pull an SCV off the line. And here comes another one. Here comes another SCV. And notice what you're
That was meant to be my scouting SCV, but then I realized I'd just follow him home.
Now we see 250, 270, and there's the refinery. Okay. This is where I'm going to bring up for the first time this game, not the last, the 5-second rule. You may have heard of it before. Now ignore everything your mother told you about the 5-second rule. What it is in StarCraft, you never spend more than 5 seconds doing one thing. There, you saw you spent more than 5 seconds dealing with that probe. You fell behind on your refinery, your SCV, stuff like that. So just by sending his probe in, he's already pretty solidly ahead in workers.
Should I be doing that at 13? Because I was trying to do it at 15 to get more stuff out, but if I should be doing it at 13...
What, your refinery?
Yeah.
Well, if you have the money to get SCVs, a refinery, and like 3 more SCVs in the bank, then it's a lot more ideal to just get more SCVs and get your refinery as quick as possible. And with the build, I'm going to teach you just get it as quick as possible. But it just comes down to you could have easily, even if you wanted more stuff, you should have been making the more stuff while you were finding the probe, obviously. So while you were attacking the probe.
Absolutely
5-second rule. I'm just going to point it out a bunch of times. It's just a very general rule. It's not like don't spend more than 5 seconds attacking a probe because that one's obvious. But even like when you're attacking up a ramp or something. And now, first rule of playing Terran. Once you finish your barracks, you make an orbital. I don't care how many barracks you want to make right now. Orbital first. Mules are OP.
Okay.
Make them. Alright. Make the orbital. That's just general rule. Your barracks finishes, make an orbital. Oh yeah, remember what you do when your barracks finishes?
Make an orbital.
There you go. That way you can feel the extra income of the mules right off the bat.
Okay.
And now... Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button here. Now we see making another SCV. Now, if you had canceled this SCV and made an orbital, you could have made an orbital. There you go.
Orbital
Believe
is
it or
greater than
not.
SCVs.
It really... well, one mule is worth 6 SCVs, so... You can do the math on that. It's worth 6 SCVs of mining for 90 seconds, and it doesn't oversaturate. So if you already have 16 SCVs mining, it doesn't, like, take away from the minerals your SCVs are mining. It actually stacks on top of them. Unlike, say, you have 17 probes versus 16 probes. It's not like having 22 versus 16 SCVs. It's like having 16 SCVs, but then your saturation is up to 22 for maximum money. I know that's a lot of stuff, but...
That's awesome, actually. I didn't realize that it doesn't actually count as a
Because you know how, like, after you have 2 SCVs, the next one will get pushed off to one that doesn't have 2? The mule will not push it off. Mules push off other mules, but until you have multiple mules. Alright.
That's awesome.
There you go. But, okay, let's look at you're looking at your scouting information now. Let's ignore the orbital, let's ignore the barracks and the gas, and let's see what you scout over here. When you see Chrono Boost, he starts as Zealot, and you're going to look for the second gas. So you're looking for the second gas right now is what you're doing, right? And you see it.
Right.
So you see it at this timing, what are you thinking?
Well, my thought was it's 2 gases on 1 base, essentially, so he's either prepping for some sort of high gas 2 base play, or he's prepping for some sort of cheesy 1 base shenanigans.
And
that was my idea, but I didn't see like full warp or full chrono boost, so I thought, okay, well, it's not a 4-gate. Obviously, he's not chrono boosting the cyber core. Like, I don't really know what he's doing yet, but it's some sort of heavy gas play.
Now, that's not necessarily true. You can just... A lot of Protoss will go 2 gas and just expand and just make a couple extra sentries. It's not necessarily a tell. The only tell is if he has 2 gas mining with 3 probes before his cyber core before his cyber core starts. Like, if he started the gas before his cyber core starts and he's fully mining it, like, you can tell because the cyber core, if both gas are mining before the cyber core is halfway done, that's how you tell that.
Okay.
All right, just
so
that's
a
tell. That's like he's definitely doing something gas heavy, whether it's a big sentry expand or something like that, or he's proxying a dark shrine somewhere. You don't know yet. Of course, one way to tell that is if he doesn't make a mothership core very early. Then that's like his gas is going somewhere else. But he did not make a mothership. That's not really like the chrono isn't a tell at this level necessarily, but you can keep it in the back of your mind. Like, he can't 4-gate me that quick. But then you go down to look for the X-Bell, and now we're just gonna ignore the orbital some more at this point. But yeah, getting this gas early. When you get the gas this timing, you definitely want to use it. I'm going to be teaching you the reactored and then Tech Lab barracks. I like getting, well, most pros as well like getting the reactored barracks first because you want the marine count, and until you have a big enough army, you can't really use the Tech Lab anyway. whether it be for combat shields or for stim or whatever. But it's going to be, I'm just telling you right now, I'm just going to kind of glaze over your build a little bit. I'm going to point out how inefficient it is, like, because obviously you can't support 3 barracks and get an expand here. You'll see, like, you'll have these 3 barracks up, and then you expand, and then you just don't use 2 of the barracks for a while. That kind of obviously is inefficient, but that can just be fixed by having a generic build you work off of, so.
Okay.
And now you're looking for the expand. I like how you keep your SCV here. Just keeping the SCV, and then you get to see the expand. You're like, oh, he's expanding. Is that what kind of prompted you to expand when you saw this?
Well, I saw it. I wasn't sure if it was, again, going to go like 1 base, so I was going to stay on 1 base and then just build the orbital in my base. But when I saw he was expanding, then I went ahead and said, okay, now it's probably safe to expand.
There you go. That's a smart assumption there. And here, once you get a tech lab, of course, this comes down to, like, you don't want to make buildings without knowing why you're making the buildings. Sure, you might be following a pro build, but the best way to do is to try to understand, like, why did you make a barracks this timing? If you're making 3 barracks this early, what I'd be thinking if you were, for some reason, like, let's assume you were a pro. And I was assuming, like, the most optimal build, I assume, okay, I see no expo, I see 3 barracks, he wants to do some kind of pressure. As a Protoss player, I would get a mothership core, and I'd try to get either sentries or some gateways out pretty quick, because you have these sentries out. His meal timing, no shit, the meal timing is off, alright? The orbitals and everything, that's not that important. As long as you spend your orbital, as long as you don't have over 200 energy at some point, it's not too bad, but of course you want to spend your mules.
Should I cancel the SCV, going back to the orbital thing, should I cancel the SCV to build the orbital like always?
Yeah, most of the time. Unless your SCV is like 80% finished when your barracks finishes. But just get that, the second you remember an orbital and you can get it is probably the best time for you to get an orbital, otherwise you'll probably forget it for a little bit too long. But
I don't know, I used to under SCVs, so I just keep spamming SCVs, because, I mean, I guess that's better than, well... Yeah. Point being, build an orbital.
Just wait, I forgot though. What happens when your barracks finishes?
You build an orbital.
Oh, there you go. I forgot for a second, but good thing you reminded me. Okay, so at this point you've seen an expansion early on. You've realized, okay, I can expand, which is the right decision. If you're going to expand, now you can realize you go for the low ground. We'll just ignore Pylo here. But yeah, at this point, you see your build is inefficient. You have 200 gas, and none of it has been used yet. And of course, you can't produce off all the barracks and expand. Obviously, it can be streamlined here. That's when you're looking at your builds, you just kind of think of what could I do without, and what did I really want in this case. And obviously, I'm going to show you can cut a barracks, get more units, a quicker expand, and hit at like the same timing. I like that combat shields timing that you did. I like the timing it hits, because you saw the robo. I don't know if you see the robo and then you choose to move out, or you're just going to do that timing anyway. Okay, there's your scan. You see the robo finishing, see no gate.
I saw the robo, and I didn't see like a mothership core or any indication that there was going to be more gateways. So I figured I was probably safe to do some sort of early stuff.
Yeah, this is a little bit...
If I scanned and saw 3 like gateways, I probably would have been a little bit more cautious, but...
And another thing, well, I mean, that's not really a tell, but you see 4 pylons right there, which means he's probably not... If you only saw, like, 2 pylons or even 3 pylons, maybe he's hiding something somewhere. But when you see at least 4 pylons before, say, the 7-minute mark, like, together like this is usually where he'd put his tech. So it's a pretty safe assumption. Sure, he could be hiding a Dark Shrine somewhere or something like that. Notice how much gas he has. But that's pretty safe. You see the robo finishing, you know exactly when, say, Colossi could be coming out. So, and a general rule... When you see the robo finishing, Colossi come out, just, if you want to be really safe, 2.5 minutes, but usually more like 3 minutes afterwards. So you're saying right now the first Colossi can be out at probably 9 minutes is a safe assumption. If he makes the robo bay right then. And that's when you should be thinking, okay, what will I have to deal with the Colossi, or do I want to kill him before then? And your idea was to kill him before then, which actually almost worked out, hilariously enough. Now, we have to assume that most Protoss would have a mothership core here. And they would just photon overcharge, and that would be the end of this attack. So,
well, that would have been one of the goals of that, so I could come back with hopefully medevacs or more stuff.
Now, here we're going to see the 5-second rule again, in action. Alright, before this attack, you're not making from any of your barracks. Your tech lab, you could be upgrading stim, but that's not happening. We're just going to look at... I'm going to go a few seconds before the attack. Let's look at your vision. Now we'll see if your vision is just you microing your units before that. Alright, you go back,
Okay.
you make a couple SCVs, and now you kill a Zealot, see what you can see, get the force fields, and now you're still microing your units. Now back at home, now look at the production tab. Think of what you could be doing right now. With all that gas, because we're assuming right now he's going to come down with a mothership core and like photon overcharge anyway. Sure, you might kill another probe or two, but your factory could have started about 15 seconds ago. You could have gotten an engineering base for upgrades, started STEM, which is extremely important, put add-ons on the barracks,
Right.
and you could just sit here and tank the damage from the probes and probably kill almost as many of them. Once you get in a situation where you see you don't have to immediately micro, like you've killed his sentries and his probes are attacking you, because obviously this force isn't going to have too much staying power for very long. You just go back home, make your factory, get your stim, throw down some add-ons, and then go back and see what's happening. You can lose this army, but having medevacs and stim 20 seconds quicker will make up for like 8 supply of bio. Easily later in the game. And that's actually what kind of contributed to that ending attack that actually killed you. It's little things. Like, this looked like, oh, this attack is doing a good amount of damage, which, let's be honest, he should have had a mothership core. And a mothership core, he just, like, presses F, clicks on his Nexus, and says, LOL, early Terran attacks. Because that's how they usually do. And of course, in this situation, you should never assume with this many units you're going to kill the Nexus. Just in this specific situation, just go for the probes. Just kill the probes.
Just go for
if you kill the Nexus, like, that should never happen. Just to be honest, that should never ever happen. So if you get the probes, it's a much safer move. Like, you might even kill, let's see how many probes he has. He has 8 probes here. You kill that many probes, that's 800 minerals of probes, plus the lost mining time. I mean, 400 minerals of probes. How much is a Nexus? 400 minerals. So you've killed as many minerals and probes, plus he has a lot reduced economy. So
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, just little things, and then like you're still looking at the army. Both you guys' minerals are getting up there, and also that gas income. You could probably go for like pulling off gas. Now this is a little bit advanced. Pulling off of gas because you might forget to put them back in gas. I know I do that sometimes. But if you don't have full saturation mode bases, you can pull off of gas for a while because you're not going to spend 500 gas for a while yet. And now you're getting your factory. What was it? About 8 minutes you could have gotten your factory here with like no downside. That's when the attack started, right? Yeah, about 8 minutes you can get your factory with no like downside. So you could have had your factory and your starport halfway done by the time you start your factory. You actually started. That's when I could have been done. Like you see how just spending only 5 seconds. Sure, you lose this entire army, maybe even to a photon overcharge, but then you have the medevacs coming out, stuff like that. So. 5 seconds. Just do your best to say, am I spending too much time? Or go into a replay. Like the next 10 games you play, I know it's going to be tedious, but try to count every time you switch your screen or switch what you have, like which control group you have, and count how many times you have over 5 seconds spent on something. And then I think you'll be surprised at how ridiculously high the number. I know my number will probably be pretty high still. But that's, just think about what you could be doing at that time, and then you'll see like, wow. Even though I thought my build was really good, I was doing a lot of damage, I had so much more potential for making more stuff. And it's hard to do in the game, as opposed to afterwards.
Yeah, in the game I always have like this just one more thing sort of mentality where I just try to build like one more thing, and I either lose my army or this happens. So I'll try to practice that more 5 seconds.
Yeah. That's just a general rule. Sure, it doesn't apply in every situation, and now we're going to come up to like some basic decision making. I don't want to say mistakes, but let's be honest, they were probably mistakes. I like how you got your upgrades. You get your upgrades, let's see where it is here. Just a basic thing you can do as Terran against any race. Whenever you scan, you're going to scan here in a second. Oh, wait. Alright. Oh, you don't see any army units here, but you see the robo base. So new Colossi are on the way. What you can do, you see no forge. Well, he has a forge building, but you don't see it. You can click on one of his probes and see, does he have any armor upgrades yet? That's just a basic thing you can do. If you don't see any army, that's not ideal. But you always want to, whenever you scan, click on his army units if you can to see if your upgrades are going to be had. Like you see your 1-1's finishing, or 1-1 is finished, even better. I'm just looking at his base for when you scan again, because now you're just like making army units and stuff, which could be a lot more efficient. But here you go. You scan, you have your 2-2 on the way, you click on his army, you see you have 1-1, and you see he's sitting at his natural. If you don't, okay. this is just a general rule. If the opponent has less upgrades, is about even on tech, he has Colossi and you have a Starport. He doesn't have Templar. You didn't see a Twilight Council, and he doesn't have upgrades, so you're ahead in upgrades. He doesn't have charge lots, he doesn't have Templar, so you're even.
Right.
There's no reason to drop him at this point. The only reason you should drop him is to pull him back into position if you don't think you have enough time to defend. But the only reason you should do that, like if you scanned or you had a Marine, well, just send a general rule. Have a Marine outside his base and a Marine at the third base all the time. If it dies, you go send another one or you scan, and you need to know that. Because I was saying this, like, as soon as you send out the drop, I was looking at your vision, but I was saying it, and chat can back me up on this. He's going to die to Colossi just moving across the map and showing up at his front door while his entire army is in his opponent's base. Like,
oh yeah, I knew. As soon as I scanned his front and saw that the
you're
army
like,
wasn't
oh
there,
no.
I knew it. I was like, yep, this is over.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But Marine at the front, Marine at the third, all times. And when he's even on bases and you have better upgrades, there's no reason to attack. The most you should do is a single drop that, like, pulls him back in position. Like, you see him moving out, the Marine at the front dies to his Colossi moving out, you send the drop in. And that could buy you another 30 seconds to get your upgrades finished or anything like that. But drops are not for damage. As Terran, drops are not for damage. They are for positioning.
Should I keep, like, a drop just kind of outside his main or, like, outside his, like, natural, just for when he moves out, like, give it, like, maybe 5 seconds after that to drop to try and pull him back, or? Yeah,
you see him move out. The second, even the second you see him move out, because he probably won't react instantly. But you just send the drop in and do as much, just distract him as long as you can. Now, it's very important when you send the drop in, you don't distract yourself. Like, you send the drop in or you rally the drop in and you go back and you make your defenses, because you know as soon as he cleans up the drop, he's coming for you. Like,
right.
But, like, you send the drop in, you rally it in, you say drop here, like behind his mineral line, and that just forces his attention away, while your attention is focused on defending. His attention will not only have to defend the drop, which you've already spent your time on, because you don't care about that 10 supply in the drop. Even if you lose the medevac, whatever, you have more than enough time to make like 20 more supply in the time it buys you.
Right, it's just time to get more stuff that would outsupply the medevac in the drop.
Yeah. And you set yourself in a defensive posture, and you know he's moving out, so you have all your hotkeys set. Gives more time for upgrades, more time for a bunch more units. You want, like, you get another round or two of Vikings out in just those extra 30 seconds. So,
right.
At that point, drops are for positioning. There, you're just going for the drop because, like, well, I have 2 medevacs I should drop, and that's pretty much what you were thinking. Let's be honest here.
Well, I got desperate because I don't really drop the Protoss, but I didn't scan beforehand, and I felt concerned because there was too much time, and I didn't want to let him just, like, kind of go on uncontested. I wanted to keep him busy, but I didn't look beforehand. I don't actually usually drop like that. I usually just show up at the door, but this is kind of a big map to just like walk all the way across the empty
That's
space.
why you just send the Marines out. So that way you have the drop ready. You have your move ready. But anyways, even if he like wants to base trade, your drop's going to be doing damage the entire time he's walking across the map then. So you might actually be able to base trade at this point. And instead of him showing up at your door and you have no units ready, you can have like bunkers and you can have your Vikings in position and you can even pull SCVs if you need to. Especially if you killed his entire probe line, then you can pull SCVs and still be pretty even. Especially when you've, like right now, let's look at your 2-2. Your 2-2 still has... You've invested over 300 gas and 300 minerals in 2-2, and that is still 2 minutes away. So you've invested essentially like 20 supply of potential units in getting upgrades that have not become useful yet. So the more time you buy, the better off you are. You got to think about, like, if he has 0-0, like you scan right here, see he has 0-0, and you've already started your 2-2, defensive. Like, how can I buy more time? How can I get 2-2 done? Because upgrades are... That's what I see of all low league players, like, the biggest thing of anything, like... upgrades. They always forgo upgrades. Like, you seem to be on top of it. You're getting your upgrades. You might not be like buying yourself time for them, but you're getting your upgrades, so at least you're there. But a lot of players will be like, nah, I don't need upgrades. I need this one more Colossi instead of getting 1-1, which will make my army way better than one more Colossi. Stuff like that. Right. Like you see here, he's just getting +1 while you're getting 2-2. If you buy time until 2-2...
Sorry, go on.
If you buy time until 2-2, your army is going to be like, even against Colossi, even if you have no Vikings, you can almost beat his army with just +1.
Okay.
But yeah, upgrades.
I just try to
so
constantly
key.
spam workers and spam upgrades.
That's
not like
that's
spam
good.
upgrades.
Which is that means your mechanics are good, this is just your kind of decision making here. Like, if you don't have that Marine in position, one Marine in position is better than having 15 more SCVs.
Right.
Because you'll just have your units caught off guard and you'll lose like 20 supply of them before you even realize what's happening. So
Is
right
that
now,
the same for Terran? Like, keep the Marine at the front as well?
keep the Marine at the front, keep the Zealot at the front, keep the Observer at the front, keep the Zergling at the front, doesn't matter. Oh yeah, he just shows up at your base here, and it's like, hello. I have no units right now because half my supply is in the drops and I don't have enough army anyway. So yeah, here we are. Now let's look at his army. Now imagine, well, I mean, you couldn't have even done the double drop. Honestly, at this point, you just have to have your supply back at home in order to defend this. I don't even know if you could have defended this because 71 army supply to 46. You're already in a pretty much tough spot and you had invested so much in upgrades. But I mean, it just comes down to paying really the 5-second rule earlier in the game, where you didn't have enough production, you didn't have your starport out quick enough. If you had those medevacs out, say, 2 minutes quicker to drop while he was moving out instead of drop while you were dying, stuff like that. It just, you see how it all kind of like spirals a little bit.
Right.
Like
kind
one
of
decision,
worse and worse
spending an
and worse.
extra 5 seconds killing that probe early on made it so your orbital was slower, which made it so your attack was slower, which made it so you didn't kill his nexus, which made it so his attack would do more damage quicker, and you were distracted so you didn't get your starport, etc., etc. Butterfly effect type of deal, which is what StarCraft is. So. But yeah.
Highlighting 5-second rule.
5-second rule, get an orbital. Now, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time glazing over Army, Tech, and Economy.
Okay.
Army is the units you have on the field right now, and the units you could fight with a straight-up attack, or do like a base trade or anything like that. Tech, your upgrades, how powerful your units are, like how cost efficient. Like 6 supply of Colossi is better than 10 supply of Zealots in his army, for example. So that's higher tech.
Right.
That's tier 3. And then economy is how many bases you can have in the near future. And you have to think about, it's kind of like a Triforce. Imagine a triangle right now with each of those at each point. If you're ahead in 2 of them, all you have to do is keep doing those 2 things. And eventually, as long as the other is, if you don't give them too much time, if you're ahead in 2 of them and you keep doing those 2 things, you'll probably still continue to be ahead, especially if one of them is economy. If you're even on like one of them, but you're ahead in the other ones, you have to kind of decide which one do I want to go for. Say, let me give you a scenario here where, well, we'll go off the last one. Your army was bigger, and your economy was bigger after the attack you did. After the attack you did early on. So you had an army and economy lead once you did that attack, because you were able to kill things. But you gave up your economy lead to get a little bit bigger of an army lead, because you were trying to kill his army, you're trying to micro. So essentially you sacrificed tech and economy to go for a bigger army, and that allowed him to get better tech and better economy, and eventually the better economy led to a better army. So once he was ahead in 2, he kind of got ahead in the 3rd. I know this is kind of like, I don't know if this is making sense here. I try to explain
it's making sense, but like, I mean, I'm trying to find out like where my problems are, and it seems like my problems are.
Your problem is like recognizing. I don't think you're thinking about it in that way when you're like going for an attack. Like you're doing a double drop, you're not thinking, what am I trying to do with this drop? Like if he's bigger on economy but smaller in army, the drop can harass him. Like he doesn't have a big enough army. You could move out with one army and drop in another place, and he can't defend both while having a big enough army, for example. But if he's on 2 bases, even economy like he was with you, then he has something ahead of you. And in that case, it was an army, in which case you don't want to drop, because then you'll have too small of an army to defend, for example. So,
okay.
You gotta think about, like, if he's on a bigger economy, you can harass him if you have a bigger army. Where if he has more tech, you can probably attack him or harass him because he's invested in tech. But if he has a bigger army, and he's even on economy, he probably has the army to defend your harassments, especially if it's just harassment, like a double drop. Because he's not split between more bases, for example. I know that's a lot to take in. It's something to kind of think about a little bit more when you're going over replays than to like think about all at one time. But I like to think about it army, tech, and economy in just a triangle and a give and take with that. Usually when the game starts, you're even on all 3, and that's how StarCraft works. But as the game goes on, it'll be kind of a give and take between it. And if you can recognize if you're ahead in economy, if you're ahead in army, if you're ahead in tech, and continue to be ahead in those, you can use them to get ahead in the other ones as well. No matter where you are, just like how if a Protoss player is ridiculous behind, like you killed their Nexus, you killed their Nexus, and you killed their entire army, but they have a photon overcharge at the top of the ramp and they go DTs, their superior tech might just completely counteract everything else because they went for that tech. That's a prime example of tech countering army and economy. If you don't have...
Should I just try to exploit their weakest point of that triangle? Or should I just try to just constantly be aware of it and then just make decisions?
There are two schools of thought. Either you can exploit their weakest, like if their economy is the weakest, then you can keep doing inefficient attacks. Like you can keep just attacking him because he can't produce enough army, or you can just try to play your strengths. Like if your strengths are economy right now, all you have to do is defend for longer, and eventually you'll have more tech and army if you keep that economy out. But if you trade it for like going tech and you allow it while you're teching, that's the biggest one. If you try to transition from economy into tech, you have no army. That's an example like a Protest player. If he had taken a third base there with his Colossus, he was going for economy into tech, and that might have opened up a timing for you to attack, where you were going economy into tech, and he was going for army, so he used his army to exploit the fact that you weren't going for a large army, and he hit that timing before your 2-2 kicked in, before you had a third base up and running, even though you had the SCVs for it. And that was your weakness, so he tried to exploit your weakness there. I know this
totally makes sense, actually.
It takes a little bit of thinking to wrap your head around, but I found it makes a lot of sense when you think about it in context of the game.
That actually does make a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Yeah. That's how I like to kind of boil it down. I'm gonna make a custom game right now. I know I just talk a lot of the time. I try to spew out as much information.
I do the same thing, but I figured it's my time to listen.
But yeah, right here, I'm just going to give you a quick build where you can get into an expand with a good starport timing and also be able to transition behind it. Just something you can work on, because I know we only have not too many minutes left, but what I'm going to do, I'll give you this build, and then we'll just go over whatever else you want to talk about, and that'll about wrap it up. I know an hour isn't nearly enough to, like, fix everything. It's a good start.
Yeah.
It gets you somewhere.
Will this also work against Zerg or some sort of... Is this like an...
This is a build, at your level, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. Perfect. Honestly, you shouldn't be too worried about doing like certain builds against certain people. Just doing a solid build and spending all your money is way better than just... way better. Like, what I'm going to do, this build is going to be with siege tanks. Against Protoss, instead of making siege tanks, build 2 more barracks. That's all I have to say. Because instead of going for like the quicker medevacs, you're going to be building siege tanks to be safe against. And I'll return the game after this, because I don't want to be playing against an AI who's going to send like 2 roaches across the map at the 3-minute mark or whatever, because that happens sometimes. But yeah, this build, I'm going to get a reactored barracks right off the bat. Do you feel comfortable Reaper scouting, or would you rather just scout with an SCV? Which flavor?
I'm becoming more and more comfortable with Reaper scouting.
Now the thing about Reapers, 5-second rule, you can't be spending like ounces of time. Yeah, I guess we can say ounces, but you can't be spending all your time like microing the Reaper to get that extra drone, because it's just not worth it. It's more worth it to hit your barracks timing or get your expansion on time, stuff like that. Way more than it is to get like another kill with the Reaper. So
I originally just built a Reaper for TVZ just to kind of see what's going on, you know, move around.
Reapers are pretty solid in every matchup. Like, you can get all the scouting information you need, and then you can get back in when you need it instead of a scan. Like, you might lose it the second time, but you'll still probably get all the information you need. This is one of the worst Reaper maps, because the expansion can be pretty well defended against it, but it doesn't really matter that much. I'm actually going to make my barracks where I can make the reactor on it, because this is the side of the map where you can, like, the add-ons are kind of sticking out, which kind of sucks against Baneling Bus, but...
Right. Baneling Bus, I hate Baneling Bus.
Now, those are easily scoutable, though, which is the thing,
they
so...
fill my nights with very, very sad tears.
Oh. Well, I wouldn't imagine you have too many happy tears against Baneling Bus, so... But yeah,
very true.
The key to this build, I'm going to be pulling off gas, which is what allows you to get a solid economy so quickly. But you're going to have to remember to put back in gas, but it really helps out a lot. It doesn't seem like that much, but... and also the beauty of this build, you can just scout with the Reaper first, and you don't have to worry about too much else, so...
Okay.
Now,
I'm alright with that.
at this point, I'm going to go to 50 gas, and then I'm just going to pull 2 off of gas. I'll keep 1 in there, because I don't feel comfortable, like, having no gas and then realizing, oh, I didn't have any gas. Because I even forget to bring them back sometimes, but this allows you to get your expansion up, like, about 30 seconds quicker, even. It might be more like 20, but still, that's a pretty big deal.
Okay.
But yeah, after the first Reaper, I'm going to be making a reactor here, getting the expo on the left. We'll assume we're playing against Zerg, and he hatched first. Which, do most Zergs hatch first against you?
Yeah. I mean, if it's a Speedling all-in, they won't have a hatchery out.
Yeah, if they don't have a hatchery out, what you do, you finish the command center, and then you just lift it to the high ground. But in this case, I'm just going to assume he's going, like, full first, or he's going for a Reaper or something. I'm going to get the bunker on the low ground here.
Okay.
And then, after getting the bunker, the next money will be spent on another barracks. This one will be the one I put a tech lab on. And now I'm just going to scout around. We're just going to do it once around the entire base, and then just get out. Get somewhere where it won't just randomly die to things. And as you make the second barracks, back in the gas. Now that you've spent like everything you need for minerals early on, making those marines. And now, once I get the tech lab on the barracks is when I'm going to be getting my second gas here. This way, you won't have too much gas at any point, but you'll still be able to spend it all while still making out of your barracks. This is actually, this is teaching you Maru's build that he uses in TVP consistently, but it can be really easily adapted to any other matchup.
So I guess the most important question that I have is, what are you looking for?
Right now, well, what race am I playing against?
Just, I guess, general, quick
Alright,
explanation.
TVZ, I'm looking for when he's going to mine 100 gas. If he hasn't mined 100 gas yet, if he doesn't have a gas geyser, I'm not scared of a speedling all-in. If he's mined 100 gas already and he's like getting speedlings, then I'm like, okay, what are you going for? Like, when are you going to get these speedlings out at me? And then you think about, after he mines 100 gas, just, or just about 2 minutes. You can click on his gas geyser, you know you can click on his gas geyser and see, that it starts at 2,500, so you can just kind of count down from there. And now I'm going to get my stim right off the bat. But yeah, just count down from there. And then past that, you're just looking to see, is he making extra queens? Is he making a lot of lings early? If he's making more than one spine, if he's making a spine crawler against your Reaper, for example, that means he's probably not making that many lings. And that means you can probably be a little bit, you don't have to be so worried about banding bus. If he's like really actively trying to deny your scouting the second time you come in, for example, that's probably more likely to be something like a roach bus or something like that. But the beauty of it, you can just have, until you get speed out, you can just have your Reaper out. You can just chill with your Reaper in the back there. And now I'm going to be going for a tech lab down here. And as I go for the tech lab on the factory, I want to get my third gas here. I'm trying to slowly ramping up my gas. You see how it never gets too high? It's just enough to pretty much do what I need right now.
Okay.
And I'm just making Marines out of this, because Marine tank, pretty ideal. If you're against Zerg, you can go Whittle Mines. I mean, you could switch this out for Reactor. This could be Hellions, but I'd like to get at least a Siege Tank until you know you're not up against, like, a Roach Bane attack. Because Siege Tanks are infinitely better. And I'm just going to go for the naked medevac right here. And now you see how quickly I can get the medevac out. And look, the Marine count right now, now compare this to the army you had going up his ramp at the 8-minute mark. It's not too shabby.
Yeah. No, it's way better.
I mean, it's about the same army supply without the Marauders, because Marauders cost a lot of gas and minerals for the cost. They don't allow you to tech as quickly. But here, as the first Siege Tank finishes, I'm getting my last gas. You see how I have pretty much full saturation on every base. I can continue making Siege Tanks. We're just going to assume he's doing some type of Roach Bane attack. And then the timing, this is mostly against TVZ, but this can be adapted to anything here. If you were going up against a Protoss player, you could just make a reactor on the factory. And this is the timing here. After you make like the second Siege Tank, or the second gas is finishing up, this is when the barracks come out. This is when 1, 2, 3 more barracks at least. You'll probably be able to go for 4, assuming you didn't perfectly spend all your money. It's probably better to go for 4, because you know at some point your macro is going to slip. Everybody's macro slips at some point, so you have that extra barracks ready. And I'll just switch this over here. And this way, I can just put another barracks on top of this. I'm going to go for the reactor to switch this starport. Or if you're against a Zerg, you can just make Whittle Mines now. It's a very flexible build. Like, if you're against Terran, you keep making tanks. If you're against Protoss, you lift the factory and move it across the map. If you're against Zerg, you just make Whittle Mines and then make a reactor on the starport eventually. But right now you see I'm getting supply blocked a little bit. But you already have +1 finishing. As +1 finishes, you can go for the armory, a second engineering bay. And at this point, you're seeing, do they have a third base? If they don't have a third base, especially in TVZ, you just keep making units. You let them attack you.
Right.
A 2-base Zerg against 2-base Terran. Against a Terran or a Protoss, you got to be a little bit more active on seeing whether they have a third, especially Terran, because he might have it in his base. But honestly, it's not that important in those matchups, especially if you have a large army early on. But right now,
TVZ, if I only see him on 2 bases, I almost never. Well, I try to never assume anything, so I just try to check around for shenanigans. Because although it's probably horribly inefficient at your level, people actually do like Zerg ninjas and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I mean, yeah, just scouting across the map, there's no downside. And there's one mistake. Can you notice one mistake in scouting I've made this game? A pretty big one.
Did you let your Reaper sit there for a while?
That's not the mistake. Well, I mean, I could have paid a lot more attention to my Reaper, but what's another mistake?
It's not outside of his base.
There's nothing outside of his base. Like, right now, he could be coming across with a Roach Bane attack, like, Colossi could be moving out. I have no idea. Like, a huge Terran army. I have no idea. I have nothing to prepare for it.
Yeah,
so.
There's nothing at his third.
There's nothing. And especially against Terran, but also in the other matchups, you always want to have the watchtowers on this map, because no one will check them, because they're so far out most of the time. And if you have the watchtowers, any drops will get shut down. So. But yeah, this is the build. You can flex it up. Like, if you're not going for siege tanks, you can add on extra barracks, depending on what race you're up against. And then you can take a third. If he's taking a third early, instead of adding on those extra barracks, you take your third base. But if he's going for 2 base or you want to punish him, you can add those barracks on when I did, stuff like that. But this should give you a pretty solid template to work off of. And now you have that replay to work off. No one else gets that replay. That you have to go for coaching for that.
No worries. No worries.
No, I was yelling at the chat. You can share it with whoever you want. But yeah, it's just a pretty solid build to work off it. You can do the same thing. Like, you could do a Marine timing there at almost the same time you attacked if you'd like. Especially against Protoss, I do a Marine timing. Against Terran and Zerg, not usually, because the defensive advantage for them against, like, a few Marines isn't that good. But Protoss sometimes get too greedy, and they show up with, like, 2 sentries and a Mothership Core. And you can still kill the sentries and the Mothership Core before losing your Marines. And losing Marines is nothing if you can trade them for sentries and a Mothership Core. Maru actually likes to trade his Marines, so that way, by the time he gets a double dropout, he only has 16 supply of bio at like the 9-minute mark. So it's nice and clean there. He's perfectly traded up until that point. But
oh wow, so it's just 2 medevacs full of stuff.
Yeah. I think, who did he play last in the GSL? MVP, I mean, Maru, he beat a Protoss play. No, not, just, if you look at any of Maru's TVP games, or just look at Maru games, or whatever. He's the best Terran player right now. Besides Paul, of course.
I saw him roll innovation.
But yeah, he's pretty solid. So if you can find any Maru games, that's something. And this is a build he uses pretty regularly in TVP. This is his go-to, so. Especially TVP, but this can also easily be adapted to TVT. You saw with the siege tanks there, and TVZ as well, so. Any last questions here?
No, I'll just I'll schedule a follow-up and see if anything improves.
Let's hope so. Oh, remember, what I want you to do... Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, is there anything else that you can suggest besides just getting over it to kind of deal with my overcritical nature of my own mistakes?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sorry, go on.
No one cares that you're in silver, okay? I don't care whatever friends you have on StarCraft, they're going to be like, oh, you're top 8, that's cool. No one cares, alright? You got to get to gold before people care. So make that happen.
Right.
You shouldn't care if you're losing at that league. Losing at that league just means you've got more things you can improve a lot quicker. It's a lot easier to find your mistakes when you're losing than when you're winning. Because when you're winning, you're like, yeah, my macro was pretty good that game when you got supply blocked like 17 times. As opposed to a game where you lose, you're like, well, that's where he put his Dark Shrine, and you'll never lose to that again.
Okay.
Just do your best to play 5 games a day. I would suggest 10, but 5 is a good start. And do that, if you're pretty happy with the game, I'd say on the winning games more, because the winning games you're going to be a lot more likely to look at that replay. The losing games, just kind of look for exactly what you lost to, but the winning games, check for the 5-second rule. Just like find all the times you spend more than 5 seconds on one thing. Orbital right off the bat. Think about when you're getting your gases for everything, because that's something a lot of people forget even when they're doing a build. And then try to maybe at the 5-minute mark, the 10-minute mark, and the 13-minute mark in each game. I just say 13-minute mark because it starts to ramp up very quickly. Think about Army, Tech, and Economy, and think about which ones you're ahead in, which ones you're behind in, and why. And what you should be doing at that point compared to what you did is something you should look at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and just to keep scouting them at that point, whether it be with the Reaper or like scans or something.
Yeah, like be looking for third bases, be looking for teching up, clicking on him for upgrades. That's something you got to get in the habit of. Every time you scan, click for upgrades. That'll get you so much information right there.
Right, just see what they're going for.
Yeah.
And then work it the other way. Okay. That's a different approach I hadn't thought of before, so.
Yeah. I played a lot of games of StarCraft, so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. As for nerd upgrades, you can just mark it as confirmed and then go ahead and message me PayPal information for that. Because I had to reschedule so many times, this is free. So just message me PayPal information via nerd upgrades. If you'd like to put a review or a rating or anything on there, you can do it. Whatever you feel like. But
sure.
Thank you again. I look forward to you scheduling another one. Of course, you have my Skype. You can contact me with any questions, anything like that. So...
awesome.
That's
Thank
about
you
it right
very
there.
much.
Thank you again.
All right, man. Catch you later.